Hello there and welcome back to my channel. I'm so grateful that you're here. So I made a decision to go back to the same place that I was recording from yesterday. Less sun, so let's go. So what I want to share with you today is a story, and maybe it will turn into many stories. But the point is that maybe you will recognize yourself in some way in the stories that I will share today, or maybe you will get a feeling that you're doing the same thing in a different way. So in the end of 2012, I came back from New York. I worked there for a couple of years under the mission of Norway to the United Nations, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it because I had such an amazing manager. I just loved everything I learned there from him. Just before he went home, I got pregnant. And the thing is, I wanted to get pregnant for a really long time. Why? Because I thought that if I get a child, then I will get love. And I was looking around me, and my sisters and people were starting to get children. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to have a child because then I will be part of being normal. I remember I went home for Christmas and I was so happy. I felt so complete and I felt like, yeah, now I understand what everyone are doing. And I felt this inner joy. And a couple of days before Christmas, I experienced this extreme pain in my back. And I remember I was like, oh no, now I'm losing. It was just like a knowing without knowing. And I said to my sister, I think something is wrong. Can we just go and check? And where she lived at that time, there was no hospital, but it was this emergency room that you could go through. And I remember we went there and my pain was so bad, like I wanted to take a painkiller because it hurted so badly. And then I remember getting in there and speaking to a doctor. And the doctor looked at me and she said, I think you're fine. And I was like, can you please check? Because it's hurting and I'm bleeding a little bit. And she was like, well, I think you're fine. And then I started to feel like she didn't listen to me. And then my sister said, can you please check her? And this woman checked and she said, just give it a couple of days. I think you will be fine. And my sister, I'm so glad she spoke for me in this moment because this woman didn't want to help me, or maybe she didn't know what to do. But my sister said, can you ask the hospital to see her? My sister demanded. So she called the hospital and got me an appointment the next day. So I was living with this pain for one more day. And I know many have gone through this. But I didn't know it at this time. These things can happen and why they're happening. So I got to the hospital and I remember this woman there also met me with, oh, you're probably going through a miscarriage. And she was checking me and I remember lying in the room and it was cold. And she said, yeah, it's a miscarriage. Nothing to do with that. So cold. And I remember that day just shutting down. I remember that I lost my voice. And my sister, luckily I had her, started to speak for me. Because the thing is, at this moment, I lost the desire to exist. Because it was like everything I want is taken away from me. But I didn't understand that this was happening for me at this time. But I remember that this doctor didn't explain so much to me clearly why this was happening and why I needed to not blame myself. So I wouldn't say she was a psychologist, but I got someone to talk to there. And I remember this woman I talked to said to me, Ingjerd, you know, there's a lot of people in the world that has experienced bad things. Do you think that maybe you're okay? And logically, it totally makes sense. But inside, I was processing a lot of emotions and belief systems about myself that I've been holding back because I've just trained myself to pretend that everything is fine. Logically, what she said made sense. And then I remember after Christmas going back to New York and going back to work. Not possible. I remember sitting in front of the desk and I wasn't able to do anything. It was just like it became quiet, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't respond to emails, nothing. It was hard to explain. So I started going to a psychologist there, and I remember the first form I was having to fill out was a lot of questions about, would you do this? Are you thinking about like not existing anymore? Cross here. Of course I lied, because I felt like everything that I desired had been taken away from me. So I didn't manage to be in New York for longer. So I asked for a sick leave, and then I went home to Norway, and I was there, went back to my sister, and I was there for 6 months. And then I realized I can't be here like this anymore. I have to make a change. Started pretending that I was kind of okay. And I started applying for jobs, and I got a job in Oslo really fast. And the way I got that is because I've been so good at pretending my whole life. Pretending that I'm fine, pretending that I'm super social, pretending that life is great and being very positive. So I got a job, and that job was so good to get because then I could start working and kind of helping someone else who needed my services. But I remember that I made an agreement with myself to only get friends who don't ask about how I am, who are like superficial. They just want to party. So I got a couple of those friends and I partied with them, traveled in Europe with them. I cried when no one could see me or hear me. And the reason I cried was because I felt like a failure. I felt all this shame of what I've gone through, that I wasn't able to have a child, that I was a failure in life. And I looked at other people and I just saw and thought, they're the lucky ones, I'm the loser. I've lived like that from 2012 till 2020 almost, that thought pattern. So every job, every promotion I got, I was so good at pretending. But inside, I felt like a failure. I felt so much shame from what I've gone through. It came a time where I couldn't have those friendships that didn't bring me forward because I got so angry because I saw that I let them control me and they wanted me to party with them when I didn't want to. So when I started saying no, some of them got angry. So I started erasing people from my life. The point of the story is that we all are living through things, and the reason why our patterns can take time to work through, you know, those thoughts that no one can hear what you're saying to yourself when you're alone, exactly those thoughts. When you go through different things in life, like experiences, you have to take your own time. I remember that in 2020 when the flu came, that was my blessing because the time stood still, the world stood still, and I could think, and I started reading books and looking, basically taking different actions. And I started walking a bit outside because everyone were inside, and it gave me energy to think new thoughts. And then one day in 2020, in October, I discovered Bob Proctor. And instead of just watching him or more videos of him, I decided to work with him because a voice within me said, this man knows something you don't know. So in 2020, that was when I woke up to what I'm doing now, helping people discover who they truly are. And it's not me telling them who they are. It's actually them telling me who they are. And this process is so sacred and it's so beautiful. It can take time. It doesn't need to take time. What I can offer is a safe space. Because like I said in the last video, our life, our experiences are our foundation. It doesn't need to be so much shame. But what I want you to know is if you have similar, maybe you've gone through similar things, or you've gone through depression, because I would call it depression, what I went through. Nothing is wrong with you. You're just discovering what it means for you to live and go through those emotions. So that's the point of this video today. Many people have rules for how you can be successful and how you can be happy. And I want you to know that what if happiness and being successful is not about material things? We all need money, of course, but what if we don't need so much as we think? What if we just want to feel good and happy about ourselves and feel safe, not feel like that outside world controlling us? What if it's just noise? What if we can shut down those senses, what you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell a little bit off, and then just go within and allow ourselves the time? And I think you're allowed to love you. You're allowed to feel good. You're allowed to give yourself time, if it's self-love or allowing yourself to not feel so much shame from everything you experienced in your life. Because my God, I think we carry so much shame from when we're little. And then maybe some of us are afraid of meeting people from when we were little. That was kind of fear I had when I moved back to my hometown. I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? Are they going to think I'm a failure? So I just want to share this story with you and say that you don't have to carry those heavy thoughts anymore. Nothing wrong with you. Has never been anything wrong with you. I wish you a beautiful day, and I see you soon.